Imagine this. You're standing on the deck of the Navy's newest aircraft carrier just as the sun starts to rise. 5,000 sailors crowd every railing, doorway, and window, trying to get a glimpse of what's happening on the flight deck. And in the center of it all, there's a woman standing absolutely still while a 4-star admiral rips the rank off her uniform as if she's a nobody. Commander! Astria Hale doesn't flinch. She doesn't argue. She just salutes, turns, and walks away. What none of those sailors knew in that moment was this. 6 hours later, alarms would be echoing through the ship. A nuclear submarine would be breaking the surface sand, refusing every single command, except hers. The Admiral thought he ended her career. He had no idea. He just triggered something much bigger. Let me back up. Astria Hale wasn't some reckless officer caught in a mistake. She had 15 years in the Navy, 3 combat citations, and a reputation as the kind of leader other leaders admired. Her specialty was rare, deep, classified, undersea warfare. The kind of missions no one writes about and most sailors never hear of. But none of that mattered on the deck of the USS Everett that morning. Admiral Malcolm Whitruft stood in front of her with a voice sharp. Enough to cut steel. Commander Hayu, he shouted so the entire ship could hear. You're accused of sharing classified information with a foreign military unauthorized communications that endangered this battle group. Behind him, a massive screen flashed her service record. Years of excellence suddenly overshadowed by one word hanging heavy in the air. Treason. The crew shifted, whispering. Some looked away. Others stared. The Admiral stepped closer. Do you have anything to say for yourself, Commander? Her voice was too calm. Permission to review the evidence, sir. Denied. Even the officers around him exchanged stunned looks. Denying an accused officer access to evidence. Completely against protocol. Whitruft didn't care. He reached out, grabbed the insignia on her collar, and tore it off with one violent motion. Leave my ship. Astria didn't argue. She turned toward the waiting helicopter. The rotors whipped the air, loosening strands of her hair. And then something quietly extraordinary happened. A single young ensign in a doorway lifted his hand and saluted her. Then another. Then another. One by one, sailors risked their careers to honor the woman being forced out. Astria never looked back. The helicopter lifted off. And most people assumed that was the end of her story. They were wrong. As the aircraft carried her away, her hand drifted to her wrist, a spot where a tactical watch used to sit during missions. One memory lit up in her mind. The scorched heat of the Syrian desert. Static on the encrypted radio, and a voice saying, Shadow Protocol is active. Phantom is yours. Commander, radio silence until mission complete. 3 years. That's how long she'd spent building that submarine, designing it, training the crew, engineering the security protocols. And she'd built it for one purpose, so it would only ever obey her. When the helicopter landed at Naval Base Kit, she was quietly escorted to a holding facility. No explanations. No courtesy. Just a silent attempt to erase her. Meanwhile, 400 miles away, Hill was breaking loose on the Everett. Admiral! Unidentified subcontact. Nuclear class! Surfacing starboard! Whitruft sprinted into the combat center. Identification. None, sir. No transponder. No responses. Sonar lit up with the outline of a submarine smaller than a Virginia class, but unmistakably American in design. Advanced American design! That's impossible! Whitruft snapped. We don't have any subs deployed here, the comms officer whispered. We're receiving a message. Text only! 5 lines appeared on the main screen. USS Phantom Special Warfare Division, awaiting orders from Commander Hale. Swallowed the room whole. We don't have a Phantom. Whitruft's voice cracked. Lieutenant. Commander E. Calloway stepped forward. The man who had once been Astria S. Secondo in commando. Sa, we do. Project Poseidon! Black Budget! Above top secret! A submarine keyed to answer to only one person! Commander Hale. Whitroff went pale. You're telling me that submarine out there will only respond to the officer I just relieved? Yes, sir! That's exactly what I'm telling you. 12 hours later, the Navy's highest-ranking officer, the Chief of Naval Operations, landed on the Everett, and right beside him, walking with quiet authority, Commander Astrea. Admirals feared the Director of Naval Intelligence. In the briefing room, everything finally came out. Her unauthorized communications weren't betrayal. They were bait. Project Poseidon was a counterintelligence trap designed to expose a leak inside the Navy. Someone had been feeding deployment data to Chinese intelligence. Astra volunteered to be the target. Her career, her reputation, her entire life on the line. Hours after she'd been stripped of her rank, Beijing received confirmation she was neutralized. That confirmation exposed the leak. Captain Lawrence Mercier, man who had first accused her, had been arrested. By the time the crew assembled on deck again, Admiral Whitroff looked like a man carrying 1,000 pounds of regret. Yesterday, I relieved Commander Hale based on evidence I believed to be authentic, he said, voice heavy. Today, I am reinstating her with full honors. Then, breaking every tradition, he saluted her first. A 4-star. Admiral saluting a commander. The entire crew followed. And in the distance, through the morning fog, a sleek black submarine rose from the water. Markings glinting in the sun. USS Phantom. Astrea walked toward the helicopter again. But this time, she paused beside Calloway. The Phantom needs a new XO, she said softly. Interested, he didn't hesitate. Yes, Commander! As the helicopter landed on the Phantom's deck and she stepped aboard, one last message flashed across the Everett screens. Command authentication confirmed. Welcome back. COMAND. The submarines slipped beneath the waves, and Astrea Hale disappeared into the deep where she belonged.